Hello and welcome to Ask Ms. Myrz, where we answer your most burning questions and solve your most nagging problems. I won't always know the answer, but I'll know someone who will. Raise your hand if you're guilty of yo-yo dieting, restricting food, over exercising, starving, feeling deprived, obsessing over food, craving what you restricted, binging, gaining even more weight, feeling shame and guilt, hating your body, resolving to strengthen your willpower next time, only to do it all over again in a never-ending cycle. Are we really doomed to go through life like this when life is already short as it is? There's an easier, kinder, saner, and more sustainable way to keep fit and healthy. And that's exactly the mission of today's guest to show us how. Please welcome registered nutritionist and dietitian, resident nutritionist of the Rebel app, and anti-diet culture advocate, Jo Sebastian. Hi,
Hi.
Jo. Hi.
Hi.
Hello, hello. How are you today?
Yes, I'm as good as the weather, and the weather's not that great. I'm just kidding.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I'll greet you with a standard Filipino greeting. Kumain ka
Mhm.
na?
Yes, of course. Palagi.
What did
Palagi
you
ako
eat?
kumakain. Just kidding.
What did you
Oh,
eat for lunch today?
my sister made these noodles. She made noodles with tofu and carrot, and it was just like a sweet little pancit-ish dish. Yeah. How about you?
Right.
What did you eat? I will eat vicariously through you.
Well, maybe I'm not sure if this is the right answer or not, but I am intermittent fasting and I will eat
Oh.
at 5 p.m. And maybe you want to unpack that later and tell me if I'm doing the right thing or not. But there's been so much anticipation for today's episode from all my friends and followers, especially from my friends from the fashion industry, the modeling industry,
Yeah.
publishing industry, maybe industry that have contributed to
Oh, I see. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
catastrophe that we have today, but more about that later. So,
Mhm.
16 months of the pandemic has made many of us confront our relationship with food and our bodies. My husband was laughing at the title of the topic, and he said, relationship with food? What is that? Because maybe men are not aware of such things, but women are. You want to
Mhm.
tell us about that, enlighten us a little bit about.
Okay, yeah, sure. I love how he mentioned that because it's so true. We don't see having a relationship with food being something that exists because it's an inanimate object of sorts, right? So it's kind of like, what? Do we really have a relationship with food? It's kind of odd and really weird to think that we would or wouldn't. But our relationship with food is really a reflection of our relationship with ourselves most of the time because we often see ourselves as unworthy or we often relate what we deserve through what we eat. Oh, you don't deserve to eat. You haven't been good today, or like
Right.
those things. And a lot of the times, that's a reflection of your relationship with your body and yourself, and it reflects towards food, even towards exercise, as to how we take care of ourselves, if we deem ourselves worthy enough for that.
Right. Sometimes the outcome of one's day depends on how much did I
Yes.
eat too much? Is my
What did you
stomach
eat?
as
Yes.
bloated as can be? Or as good today? My stomach's not so bloated. I didn't have to unbutton.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
damaging, right?
Yeah, I used to like be so stressed if I ate a donut, like or just took a bite of pizza. It would haunt me the whole day, and it would just ruin my whole day where I couldn't even talk to people because I was constantly thinking about, oh my God, that pizza, that pizza, that pizza, right? So it can really be so much of your energy taken away from you.
Right. The volume is still kind of faint. So
Oh,
should we try again without earphones?
let's try that. How's that? Is that better?
Yes, that's better. Okay. So you have your own story about your
Mhm.
history of disordered eating, which started when you were as young as 13. Please tell us about it.
Oh, okay. We're diving in there. But
Yes.
I actually don't mind about talking about this. I talk about this a lot actually is so when I was 13, I went to an art school, and when I went to the art school was for ballet
for me, I went to major in ballet. And of course, we know ballet to be one of the more intense ones around your body
Right.
and how you look. So what happened was when I was there, the first thing that our seniors did was lay us down, sit us down, and then tell us every single thing that was wrong about us. Like, oh, your stomach's too big. Oh, you have to fix your neck and things like that. And then that just started my whole insecurity and started to make me feel like I have to change. And the way we tend to want to change our body goes through food. So it
Right.
started skipping meals, avoiding rice, not eating, taking laxatives if I felt like I overate. And because I was restricting, I ended up binging. And that carried over up until I think the start or towards the end of 2019 was the time I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta take charge, take a different route.
Right. And your experience led you to seek the answers by studying community nutrition at UP.
Yes.
What is community nutrition as opposed to just nutrition?
Oh, okay. So in the Philippines, there's like nutrition and dietetics, and then for the one school, which was a school I went to, which is UP Diliman, it's community nutrition. So basically, the difference is mostly how it's catered towards public health more
Right.
than the clinical aspect of nutrition. So the community aspect of nutrition being immersed in communities and things like that.
Right. And now you are, I saw your post on, was it Facebook or Instagram, where you said that you have completed 4 batches of HEAL.
Yeah.
What does HEAL stand for again?
Okay, so HEAL is the program that I created because my goal as a dietitian is to help others or hopefully be able to help others unpack their relationship with food because I felt like I really needed somebody to help me do that because it took a long time. So heal is about honoring your hunger, eating well, accepting your body, and then living your best life. And what we
Right.
do is we have these group sessions where we talk about our relationship with food and we unpack diet culture, we unpack fears of food, we unpack hunger, fullness. What are these things? And we try to develop or free ourselves from that restrictive relationship with food.
Right. And based on the feedback of your attendees, it seems to be really enlightening and working. And it's hard to unpack diet culture coming from someone who is possibly very guilty of contributing to it as a women's magazine editor from the late 90s for decades. Although we strongly push for diversity and inclusivity in beauty and encourage Pinays to love the skin they're in, and the
Yeah.
concept of body love came around maybe a decade ago. We
Mm-hmm.
were very guilty of like promoting this month's diet, or camouflaging flaws, or
Mm-hmm.
the infamous summer is here, get your beach body
Beach body.
ready.
Yeah.
So guilty, but it was the zeitgeist of the times, and now you cannot say such things. But I myself came from the modeling industry, where you had to be thin for a living, and you
Mm-hmm.
had to resemble, when you wore clothes, you had to look like the clothes were hanging off a hanger. And so if that is the beauty aesthetic or the fashion ideal, then if you don't fit, you don't work. And
Yeah.
so naturally, it has affected my own self-image and my own perception. My husband keeps saying I have BDD, or body dysmorphic disorder, which I keep saying, no, I do not. Just talk to any woman. We all have it.
Yeah, it's a girl thing. But I mean like it's an everyone thing though, right?
Right, right. But
Everybody
there's
is
this entire
struggling.
culture that we are only probably becoming aware of thanks to people like
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you.
And and later you're gonna tell us how exactly we can tackle this.
Yeah.
But what do you want to say about diet culture in general, and how we can try not to be affected by it when it's all over
Yeah.
all our media?
Yeah, I love actually how you said that, right? Like, it was a lot of things that contributed it from magazines, social media, even heightened it, because there's now a lot of like editing software and like things you don't know about people. You only see
Right,
10% of their life. And the moment you see that 10%, you think, oh wow, they're so perfect. And then you look at your 90% of yours, and then you're just like, what? No, like I'm always bloated, all of these things, right? So like diet culture is something you don't notice because it's so normalized in our culture now,
Right.
where it's just, oh, you're not eating that cake. I wish I was you. Or like, oh my gosh, you're eating donuts. You have to work that off, right? It just becomes this thing that's so normal to us. We don't even notice that it could actually be harmful in the long run. And so many things you see online um, paint itself into your mind as you get older, and the images you see, the people you work with, the things that they talk about, how they talk about themselves, it also starts to tap into you, right? Like, so what can we do now is to open our eyes, just to be aware. Like the first step is really just being aware of everything, what you see, if and question it. Is that actually helpful? Like
Right.
to do that to yourself? How's that going to impact me in the long run, right? Like
Right.
start with that. Just start questioning first what you see, and then start
Right.
saying, is that for me?
Right. And I love how brave you are by uh, exposing your own so-called flaws, like your belly rolls, your jelly rolls, jiggly bits, bloating, and you're a fit person who's also a nutritionist. It doesn't help when J-Lo at 52 flaunts her
Very
super
true.
flat abs and bring shame to everyone who is like half her age. But then we have uh, people like you who really strive to fight all these unrealistic body ideals. Was it hard for you to do that?
Honestly, it was at the start, just because I felt like, what am I doing? Am I just like making fun of myself? And it was the first bloated picture that I posted that people were like, OMG, I experienced that too. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, all right. And at that time, I wasn't following any body acceptance or body positive movements
Right.
yet. Right. So I was just doing it for fun. And then I saw all of these posts after that. I started to search more, and people were posting about their bodies. And that allowed me to feel more confident in mine. And the more I actually looked at my own body, the more that I saw these things like stretch marks and cellulite and pimples to just be something that was part of me rather than something I had to change. And it was really just constantly looking at myself, maybe in a narcissistic way, but just constantly looking at myself as like, that's your body, that's your body, that's your body. Did I start to change my perception of like, you know what? People might think they're flaws, but they're on me. I don't have anything I can do about that, so I'm just gonna live with it. And then it started to slowly get in there.
Right. And what has the reaction been? I'm sure people are shocked. Are people shocked or disgusted or amazed, or are they applauding your
So
efforts?
far, no disgusted, which is great. But I think because I haven't really exposed that much of myself compared to many other creators out there. Like the most I've ever showed was like hip dips, cellulite, stretch marks, and my stomach rolls.
Right.
I have yet to expose my body hair, right? So there's still a lot unseen. But so far, it's been pretty positive, and a lot of people have found them helpful. I guess I haven't reached that side of the internet yet, where all you have are bullies. So I hope I don't get there.
Right.
But-
Right. I think on Monday, a very positive, what shall we say, change or statement was the triumph of Heidelin Diaz at the Olympics, where she showed the beauty in power and strength. For somebody who used to be ashamed of her muscles. She said that even her own mother shamed her for gaining muscles and said, you should stop that weightlifting nonsense because you're going to have muscles and no man will marry you and nobody will ever like you. And you yourself advocate fitness.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I love working out, but I love how you also mentioned that because she also broke barriers of like
Right.
sport in general,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And it's just so true. We have so many stereotypes that you're supposed to fit in a box. You're supposed to look like this. but a lot of us don't fit in boxes, so it can
Right.
feel very weird when you don't fit in a box. Like, I have this friend who I talked with one time, and her name is Air, so that Air, and she's on Instagram too, but she advocates for like morena skin, the darker skin Filipino, and she worked in the modeling industry as well, where she was usually typecast as either the plus size model, and then she felt like she was boxed into being a plus size. So if she stopped, let's say, being quote unquote plus size, where would she fit? Right. So
Right.
sometimes we just like force ourselves into places, and we forget that bodies are so different, and there's really nothing that we can fit into ourselves. So to embrace the fact, which, like you said, now there's a lot more diversity coming in, which is amazing, because now we can see yourself represented in everything. People
Right.
who
Right.
look like Heidelin now can be like, yes, I'm strong, I'm
Right.
amazing,
Right.
right? So we just need more representation. We
Right.
just need more.
Right. Especially young, impressionable girls
Yes.
who are, already probably absorbing their mother's own BDD
Words. Family and
or
friends.
relationship with food. Okay, so let's jump right into your tips. Your
Okay.
number one tip for how to heal your relationship with food, your body, and yourself is to remove the diet mentality. How do you do that when every time you wake up and open your phone, there it is?
Yeah, it's not even your mentality anymore. It's just like everybody else's, right? Sometimes, and to be honest, sometimes I struggle with that too. Where I eat a pizza, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to work out extra, and then I have to catch myself and be like, but why, right? So first, you have to understand what the diet mentality is. And the diet mentality is basically scarcity or restriction, deprivation over nourishment, right? Because diet culture is a system of beliefs that put weight, shape, and size over well being. Like, it doesn't matter if you're starving, it doesn't matter if you're unhealthy, if you're skinny, that's the goal, right? Like, that's the mentality. So, first, you have to identify what is the diet mentality, and that's essentially mentalities that tell you you have to lose weight or you have to look a specific way to fit in or to be healthy, when health looks very different on everyone. So mentalities like you can't eat this food is bad for you, um, this food is going to make you instantly gain weight. Those things we have to start removing, unpacking, asking, are those things true? Do I have to believe that? Um, how is this impacting me? The mentality of good and bad food, where if you eat a bad food, you're automatically a bad person, right?
Right.
That I ate the cookie, it's like I robbed the bank kind of feeling, the thing.
Right.
So it's first unpacking what is diet mentality and asking yourself, are these things true? Do I need to
Right.
believe this? Right? How about, what do you feel like are some diet mentalities that you are struggling with right now?
Right. Or you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh, I have tried every single thing from my fitness pal. It's not a diet, but it's restriction, ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, and it will work for the duration that I implement it. And it's usually because of course, I'm blaming the industry, but because of like wanting to fit into a certain outfit or wanting to, as I said, get bikini ready, stuff like that, which seem very superficial, but I'm exposing myself out here. But just to be honest, those were the motivations. And
Yeah.
so I have jumped on every bandwagon. But sometimes, what about health? From looking at it from a health perspective, for example, eating a cookie is not bad, but refined sugar is not healthy, right? So how do you, as a nutritionist, how do you weigh in on that?
So I actually love that you said, though, like starting with why you were doing those things.
Right,
A lot
right.
of it was because the mentality that you had to look a certain way or
Right,
you had
right.
to feel a certain way to fit in.
Right.
Just what a lot of the diet culture things bank on. the fact that you are never going to be happy in your body no matter what, you're going to constantly subscribe. Yeah, you're going to constantly subscribe to the diet mentality, because even when you lose the weight, you're still not going to be happy because there's so much more for you to hate, right? Because that's what we're constantly put on. But so in the mentality of health, right, to apply gentle nutrition, I usually recommend first unpacking bad food, good food mentality, and seeing food as neutral things. There's no good, there's no bad, there's just food. I'm not saying they're nutritionally equal, but they have no moral value. Because more often than not, attaching the moral value leads to the all or nothing mentality, which is like, oh, I screwed up, might as well start again tomorrow. Oops, that kind of thing. Which leads to the overconsumption of the foods that are usually or can usually have that impact on our health. So it's when we consume so much of it every single day that it might result in possible health issues. But then that's something we don't want to focus on right now, but unpacking first, right? How can we find balance if we're not even letting ourselves try to eat it at all?
So it's the excess that leads to poor health.
Yeah.
And all this time, I thought it was a question of willpower. Like I would tell people, the problem with me is I cannot moderate. I cannot have one chip. I cannot have 5 chips and put the bag away. I need to consume the whole bag, and I cannot sleep at night knowing it's in the pantry.
That's a great point, because I used to feel that way too, where I was like, if I order pizza, I'm gonna eat the whole thing. There's never gonna be anything left. And now we have pizza and it stays in our house for like 5 days at the point where nobody wants it anymore. Because we come from a scarcity mentality where it's the tendency to be like, if I don't have it now, I'm never gonna have it again. That's why we feel like we can't stop, because it's never gonna be another option to have it. So when you remove that and think, I can eat whatever I want anytime I want to, you start to ask yourself, what do I really want? Right? Sometimes there's like 10 donuts in front of me, and before I would be like, I have to eat them all. But then I ask, do I really want them all, or do I just want what will make me feel satisfied? Sometimes that's 1 donut, sometimes that's 3, but that's okay.
All right. So next we have honor your hunger. Uh-oh. Seems so hard to do.
Yeah. I think that also comes from our perspective of hunger being bad. Right? Like you said a while ago, it's not really about willpower. It's that we tend to force ourselves the other way, where it's like, if you're hungry, oh no, just drink water, have an appetite suppressant, or drink coffee or something like that, right? Which usually makes your body feel extra hungry longer, that by the time you actually allow yourself to eat, you'll be less mindful and less in control of that time you're eating. So when you say honor your hunger, that's eat consistently throughout the day. Don't skip meals, because when you skip meals, you're more likely to feel hungry later and feel less in tuned with your body. And that's part of healing your relationship with food.
Right. But what about all the findings about intermittent fasting, where people do without food for long stretches of hours, sometimes days, and all these findings about how good it is actually for the body? What do you have to say about that versus honoring your hunger? What's the difference?
So there's still a lot of like conflicting evidence, right?
True.
Around that. So if it works for you, then that's fine as well. But you have to also be honest with yourself as to, are you okay with this lifestyle, or are you starting to like convince yourself that that's how you're supposed to be? Because I also did intermittent fasting before, and it came to a point where at the start it was like, okay, I can do this, right? Because I was busy in the morning, so I didn't really think to eat. But it came to a point where at 11:59 I would still not eat because I was like, no, I want one more minute, and I would get so mad at myself if I ate before that. So when it starts to become that, it starts to become more taxing mentality wise, and it starts to make you question yourself. I think that's when you have to step back and think, maybe it's not long term for me.
Right. You've also said in some of your videos that sometimes hunger is not our fault, but it's the body physiologically calling out
Mhm.
to us, telling us that it needs nourishment. Do you want to expound on that?
Okay, yeah. So you know how when you need to pee, your bladder
Right.
stretches, and then you need to
Right.
pee. And when you're thirsty, your mouth is dry, so you drink water. Hunger is one of those things that our body does to tell us that we need energy. It's like a car has a gas signal, and the gas signal is up. So that's our body's way of telling us we need food, because food is one of the basic things we need to survive. And that's what hunger is. A tendency is we what about, like, there's a question of, I always feel hungry though, like I just ate and then I feel hungry right away.
Right.
Sometimes that's a result of either long-term restriction, where your body's still trying to find its balance again of understanding your hunger and your fullness cues, because there's like that disconnection that happens. And sometimes it's also from not being present when you're eating, where you ate and then you're like, oh, where's my food? Like, did somebody take it? Oh,
When
like,
you're
yeah,
mindless, right?
yeah. So like, there's that hunger is that, but sometimes it takes time for us to relearn our hunger signals.
Right. And what about you also made a distinction between several kinds of hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Like my experience with fasting is that because in the beginning, right, like when you skip breakfast, you think you're going to die. And then when you get used to it, you didn't die. And so you figured out it wasn't really hunger pala. Maybe I was restless or anxious. You want to talk
Okay.
about the different kinds of hunger.
So the different types of hunger are, you have physical hunger, which is when your body needs food because you're low on it. There's practical hunger, which is you're not going to be able to eat later, so you're going to eat
Oh.
now. Yeah. You have mouth-based hunger, which is your cravings, when you're craving something very specific. And then you have emotional hunger or mental hunger. Emotional hunger when you use food to cope with your emotions. And then you have mental hunger, which is you're physically full, but mentally you're not satisfied with what you ate or with your meal.
Right.
And those are all valid, right? If you're craving something, that's okay. Then go eat it, because there's probably a reason why you're craving that. If you are physically hungry, probably a very important reason why. If you're emotionally hungry, that's valid too, but it's also important to ask what are these emotions you're feeling, and does emotionally eating always help, or is it covering up emotional problems, right? And then
Right.
you have mental hunger, which is common in the dieting mentality, that also takes time to overcome, right? So
Right.
it's important to distinguish the differences, but also important to remember they're all valid. So honor
Right.
your hunger.
Right. Okay. I believe you.
Thank you.
If you promise, if you say they're all valid, then I believe you. I mean,
Yes,
if
yes.
you promise it will not all come back to bite me in the ass.
But okay, so that's a great point, because the thing with binging and restricting, it's like a pendulum. The more you pull to one side, the moment you let go, you're gonna swing so far to the other
Right.
side. So if we're constantly restricting ourselves and then we let go, we're probably going to hit the other side of binging and overeating and things like that at the start. And that's
Right.
okay, because you have to let yourself find your balance again. And that takes some
Right.
time.
Right. Practical hunger is like we're driving to Tagaytay, but on the way there we might starve to death. So we must
Yeah.
load the car with junk food
Yeah, yeah, we gotta stock up on
in
food.
case of hunger. So three is understand the root.
So it's more on understanding the root of why you are asking about your relationship with food, and asking yourself what are the causes of your questioning of yourself. Like you said, the reasons you usually did the diets was because you wanted to fit into a dress, or because you felt
Right.
like
Right.
you had to fit into a standard. So you have to unpack that and dig deeper. Why do you want to fit into this specific standard? Is this standard really meant for me? Is this body shape really going to give me what I want? Or
Right.
is it just a cover or something that I think will give me what I want? Because
Right.
when I was doing the diets and things like that, I wanted to be fit. I wanted to be thin. And then when I asked myself, why do you want to be thin? It was more because I wanted to fit in. Why do you want to fit in? Because I never felt validated. Why don't you feel validated? Because I'm waiting for somebody to say it. How come nobody's saying it? Because they don't. People usually don't validate you straight up. You have to find that for yourself. And then I started to ask and understand. Okay, this is me thing, not so much.
Wow.
Yeah, it's more an internal thing rather than an external thing. And then you have to dig deeper as to what is that trauma, body image, what is it?
That's very deep digging. In my case, I think my physical appearance from my modeling days has been part and parcel of my identity, and maybe there is an unwillingness to part with that physical ideal. And so, and I think a lot of ex models, maybe ex ballerinas also, perhaps,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
ex beauty queens are judged all the time for they'll be like, ay nako, si Miss ganyan, tumaba na, hindi niya na maintain. Like it's an achievement, right? So I'm not blaming society. I'm also partly to blame, but it's like a whole
cycle.
not just cycle, but it's like a whole ecosystem of
the whole thing. But that's a great point actually, is the
Right.
media right now, they just love to point out anybody who gains weight or anybody who loses weight.
Right.
And that can also impact you, where you're just like, oh my gosh, so if my body changes, what would people think, right?
Right.
And you do have that attachment to your body because you often attach it to so many other experiences.
Right.
Where it was like, when I was in my smaller body, I was able to dance, I was able to
Right.
to do all of these skills that I can't do now, but also I'm not really trying to do those skills now. So as much as I feel like that was that body, it's also because I stopped, right? So like,
Right.
we attach so many things to the physical body when it was a lot of moments in your life that was actually more contributing to it than what your physical shell looked like.
Right. So for you as a former ballerina, do you still get those tinges of like when you watch ballet dancers?
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
feel like a tinge of, oh, I wish I could do that?
Yeah, at the start of the pandemic, I was watching Royal Ballet rehearsals.
Right,
and I was
right.
like, oh my god, I used to be that. Not really, but like, kind of.
And how do you come to terms with it?
Then I realized that, my life is so different now, and if I actually stuck to that path that I was on, I wouldn't necessarily be where I am right now. So you have to be comfortable as well with who you are as a person to be able to let go of it. So you have to find something you like and enjoy right now, new hobbies, new skills, new things in life, because
Right.
there's so many. So you have
Right.
to find that you can attach yourself to or just look into.
Right. Okay. Number 4 is be curious instead of judgmental.
So, like, jumping into understanding the root, it's always important to be curious rather than judgmental when you approach it. You're like, oh, you gained weight. Ugh, you suck. Instead of that, be like, why did I gain weight? Or why am I binge eating? Or why am I constantly ashamed of my body? Right? Instead of being judgmental and asking yourself that, or telling yourself that you suck, you need to work harder, ask yourself questions like why, so that you can approach it with more kindness, but also so that you have more of a view of what you can do. Right? Like, if you're binging and then you're just gonna be like, oh, you're weak, you have no discipline, it's not gonna help you move forward. You're just gonna feel like you have to be stronger. But if you binge and you're like, why did you binge? Did you eat enough yesterday? Did you have a bad day? Are you attaching emotions to the food? Then you can start giving yourself solutions. Then you can start moving forward.
Right. What kind of emotions do we attach to food? For me, sometimes eating carbs is like being hugged.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you get what I mean? That you just can't get on when you restrict carbs. You feel like dry and like not enveloped in the warmth of a hug.
Yeah,
it's a good
I agree.
comparison.
It's because carbohydrates also releases this thing called tryptophan, which is an amino acid also present in some proteins. But tryptophan becomes serotonin, which is that
Yes.
a hormone that's part of like
The
feeling
feel
good
good
and stuff like
hormone.
that. Yeah, right. So there's a reason too. But other things we attach to food is comfort, memories, tradition, like what your grandparents baked you before, or things like that. So it's totally fine to feel comfort in foods. But the question is always, is it your only source of comfort? Is it your only coping mechanism? And are you understanding why you're feeling that way? Because if not, you're constantly going to keep going back into that cycle. But if you first understand the root, understand what's causing it, then at least we won't always turn to food or only turn to food as our source of coping.
Does it help also to be less judgmental of others in
Yeah.
trying to be less judgmental of yourself? Because one of my guests on the show before, Lourdes de Vera, said those who fear judgment are usually those who are quite judgmental.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That is so true. It's really, really important not to be judgmental of others, because when you judge other people's eating habits, you also have to consider how that affects them, right? Like they're gonna feel terrible and all of these things. So be curious, but also don't be curious about them and be like, oh, why
Right,
are you
right,
eating so much, right? Because
right.
that's just kind of judgmental too. But just be curious about yourself and focus on yourself. If other people want to open up to you, then you can talk about that. But that's like one of the things that are coming up now is, when is the best time to comment on somebody's body? It's
Right,
never,
right,
unless they ask for that comment or something, right? Because
right,
you never know what they're going through.
right,
You see
right.
somebody binge eating, what if they're having a bad day, or what if they've been struggling for years, but the first thing you're going to think is, oh my god, they eat so much, right? So it's like that one moment you see them becomes your image of them forever, and you don't even know what they were going through. So
Right.
I definitely agree. That's part
Right.
of being not judgmental to yourself.
Right. In my experience, it's usually people saying, yan lang kakainin mo? Anong kinakain mo? Pwede
Yeah,
ba
no.
kumain ng gulay na hilaw?
There's always somebody asking, and then it makes you
Right.
question yourself also. It's like, what am I doing?
Right. Okay. And then the fifth one is give yourself unconditional permission to what?
To do everything, to eat,
Okay.
to change, to be yourself, to take your time, to 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 learn about yourself. You have to make it unconditional. That's the important one, is you have to make it unconditional. It can't be, I'm going to heal my relationship with food when I lose weight, because that's a conditional permission. And or I'm going to allow myself to eat my favorite foods when I become this or that. It has to be unconditional permission to change, to eat, to be yourself, to learn about yourself. Because if there's conditions upon it, it's gonna make it harder. And that's one of the most important things. Your why, as to why you're doing it, and giving yourself permission to do it as well.
Right. Right. It seems so scary because it seems so good to be true. Like, is this lady really telling us to eat whatever we want, and give us permission to, like, is that
Yeah.
like opening the floodgates to what we've always feared? Where do you like delineate between
Mm-hmm.
loss of control and being kind to yourself?
That's a great question, because I a lot of people ask me that, like, you're a dietitian, why are you telling me I can eat
Right,
whatever I
right,
want, right? What about my health and stuff like that? But it's usually because we don't trust ourselves at all when it comes to
right. I don't
anything.
trust myself.
Yeah, we don't trust ourselves to tell us when we're hungry. We don't trust ourselves to be able to tell when we're full. We always have to find like markers to stop us. And
Right,
that's usually what keeps us from truly healing our relationship with food, because we don't trust ourselves.
right,
So unconditional permission is really giving you the permission to trust that your body knows exactly what to do. For example, let's say you went on vacation, right? And then most of the time on vacations, you don't really have the choice of what to eat. Usually when you come home, somehow you're craving something very fresh, right? You're craving that orange or something. That's like a sign of how your body knows balance. Or you had a bag of chips and now you're craving water. That's because your body also knows that you probably have lots of sodium in your body and you need to flush it out. So your body is so smart, but we're so afraid to trust that it does or knows what it has to do. And that's what unconditional permission is about. Trusting that your body is made to cope and handle situations like this.
Right. I think we lose trust when our body fools us into thinking, yes, you do want to eat the whole cake. Come on, eat the whole cake, eat the whole cake. How
Yeah.
do you learn to trust again?
Yeah, I know that too, but that's what the thing is. You have to remember, that's what happens at the start.
Start.
But
Okay.
as time goes on, you're gonna find your balance again. Because this is one of my favorite samples is to imagine, okay, cake. Let's say, like you said, I can't trust myself to eat cake because if I eat cake, I'm gonna finish the whole thing
Right.
every single time.
Yeah.
Then put yourself in that situation where you eat cake every single day and only cake. Will you never get sick of it? Will you truly
Right.
never stop eating it? Because there will really be a point where you're just like, I can never look at cake again.
Right.
Right? I'm sorry. There's like no more. Right? But you have to let your body kind of get to that point. And I'm not saying like get sick of all of your favorite foods, but you just have to trust that your body knows how or what's going to happen when it reaches that point. Just like if you only eat diet foods, there's going to be a point where you're like, ugh, chicken breast again. Right? And the same
Right.
thing can happen on the other side.
Right. So you've said time and again that food is not the enemy. It is fuel, nothing good, nothing bad.
Yes.
Please tell us more about this.
Okay. So one of the basic things that your body needs, food. Food, your body needs food like it needs oxygen. It needs it to survive. And the reason why I always say that there's no good food or bad food is because when you attach the moral value, you attach the moral value to yourself. Oh, I ate the bad food. Now I'm a bad person. I don't deserve anything. And then you go back and forth through that cycle of restricting and then binging and then questioning your worth and all of these things. So you have to think of food as something that's there to help you rather than something to sabotage you. Because when you shift that mentality, now you look at food as what do I feel good eating? What do I want at this moment? And then you really get to trust yourself or find that trust again when you start seeing food as what can help you and you find balance for yourself. Like for me, before I used to eat oats and oats and oats and oats, and then I found out that like oats doesn't really taste that great so much sometimes. So now I'm just like, I can't eat it unless I have it with this, but at least that's what's helping me now, right? So you have to find what works for you, and that starts by giving yourself the unconditional permission, the seeing food as fuel rather than the enemy.
Right. And what about the whole concept of eating clean, which has sometimes led to orthorexia or obsessive healthy eating? What are your thoughts on eating clean?
That's like one of the biggest things we have now is the obsession of being perfect, obsession of
Yes.
being good all the time, right? Which usually leads to further stress and mental anger to ourselves if we break those rules, right? There's really no clean eating unless you clean your food before you eat, which you probably should do. But like one of Jeff Nippard is one of the more popular ones on YouTube in the fitness spectrum. But he has this video on clean eating and how there's also very different definitions of clean eating as well. Like clean eating says whole foods, but it allows protein powder, and protein powder is a processed food, right? So technically in rules of clean eating it shouldn't be allowed, but it is. So it becomes kind of like, okay, so what is clean eating exactly, right? Definition changes. And obsession with being perfect is just going to stress us out so much because no one is perfect. And who is even the standard of perfect that we are comparing ourselves to? So just think of nutrition as something that doesn't have to be so perfect. Like everything.
Right.
It's just
Right.
about balance.
Right. So when you coach your clients, what is it that you, for example, go through with a certain batch of your HEAL attendees?
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
walk
So
us through what you do with them.
Oh yeah, for heal we have 6 sessions. 4 if you want to do the individual one, but it starts with why we binge or why we restrict. Just understanding the root. Then it goes into body image, what factors or what affects our body image. We talk about like the media and stuff like that. And then we jump into fear foods or that mentality of I can't trust myself around food. How do I do that again? We talk about that one. Hunger and fullness, of how you can learn to honor your hunger without pushing yourself to the edge all the time. And then we talk about gentle nutrition, which goes into how do you balance eating foods you like but also nourishing your body. And then we just tackle everything at the end on the 6th session, putting it all together.
Right. How, in your own experience, how did you find balance?
It was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of binging and then restricting and then being fed up with it. So I stopped. So honestly, it was just letting go and letting my
Right.
body find that for itself. Sometimes it works for people to just let go without structure, without strategy, and just do it. But that's why I also created Heal for people who need more structure and strategy as to finding balance. It's first unpacking and then relearning. So unlearn and then relearn about your body, or just go crazy and not go crazy, but just let go and let yourself fail, but also learn from those.
So is it usually psychological enlightenment that will click the key, unlock
Yeah,
the key to like
yeah.
your eating patterns?
Most of it really is actually, and a lot of it is actually things we already know, but we don't let ourselves truly believe or really unlock in our life. So a lot of the things we go through in the sessions are really just things that you already know, but don't believe or are afraid to apply into your life.
Right. For
So that's what
example.
it's unlocking. Like fear foods, right? For example, we know that foods aren't really evil or bad, and how we feel like one cookie is gonna destroy our whole
Right.
body functioning, right? But that's not necessarily true. So it's really just challenging that. The other one we tackled most was everybody is different. And as much as we believe that, we don't truly believe it in that sense, right? It's like everybody's different except I have to look perfect kind of mentality. So also unpacking that and understanding, no, really, everybody is different. How can I focus on mine? So it's just more focusing on those things.
And what are some of the changes that your participants have reported?
Most of them have been on at least the ones that I've really seen was not being afraid of food. Like those are the ones that I really love, is they used to be afraid of eating donuts and now they can eat a donut, enjoy it and move on. um, those are my favorite ones. And of course the body image ones, where before they were always challenging or questioning, why do I look like this, I have to lose weight to fit in. And now they're more accepting of what their body is because it's gotten them that far. And you can still want to change your body, right? That's fine, but you always have to come from a place of acceptance and respect, and not from a place of hate. Because if you come from a place of hate, no matter what happens, you're not gonna like your body. But you come from a place of acceptance, then no matter what the change is, you know that's what it needed to happen for you to be able to reach the point that you need to be in.
Right. What are some of the hardest obstacles you predict that people will encounter when they follow this kind of mindset?
It's really the setbacks. That's the biggest things, and the setbacks usually come from being exposed to the media and the messages that used to be there, or the things that you used to follow because you can trust it. Like you know you're gonna lose weight if you don't eat, so that's the thing that you have this like connection to it, right? And
Right.
then when you feel like you can't do that anymore, you feel lost, and then you feel like, who am I as a person? You always want to go back to that, right?
Right.
You always want to feel comfortable again. So I think it's the discomfortable feeling of learning about yourself again that really sets people back. And then you just need that reminder, that push. Remember how far you've gotten and how much work you've put in, so just keep going. Just like in anything, it's
Right.
the call of the past coming in.
What about Pinoy cultural obstacles?
Yeah, we talked
There's a
about
lot
that
of
too. Yeah,
that.
because diet culture is also something that's so big in the Philippines, and so many people don't know it and are so unaware of it,
Right.
especially in your family structure, right? So
Right.
we talk about that, like, sure, it's fine now. We don't have gatherings, nothing's happening, so
Hello?
nobody sees it. Hello?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, can you see me?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Are you back? Okay. Please continue.
Sorry.
Pinoy culture.
Yeah, so like a lot of them talk about how, yeah, the pandemic, you don't really see your family, so you don't feel that pressure right now.
Right.
But when they start to, they will start feeling that. So what can they do about it? And it's usually just remembering that this is a cultural thing. It's like a systematic thing, and they're still part of that. They're still under that the diet culture spell probably. So you have to understand that not everyone is where you are at, and learn to set your boundaries as to like, okay, they're diet talk now. I'm gonna step away because I don't want to subscribe to that, or oh, they're complaining, they're stressed about their body. Am I willing to educate them on this, or is this something I have to step back from because it's not going to be good for me? So it's really about setting boundaries.
Right. And what if you just want to wear nice clothes? Like for me, I used to tell people, gusto ko lang naman, because of the pandemic effects, I used to tell people, gusto ko lang naman makapag-tuck in. Is that so bad?
That's a good thing. That's a good question too. But you know, a lot of that comes from us feeling like we have to be a specific way to be able to rock it, to be able to feel
Right.
confident in it. But honestly,
Right.
if you look now on TikTok and so many other pages, there are so many people who are just rocking whatever outfit, and you just have to remember that you're probably the biggest judge of yourself.
Right.
So find clothes that actually make you feel comfortable and feel good. And if you want to wear it that way, wear it that way, but you have to wear it with confidence, because honestly, confidence is the thing that's going to bring it. Is it mine?
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Are we back? Right.
Sorry.
Yes, no problem. Internet problems. What's your final message for the Filipina who's struggling with so much right now? Pandemic, threat of new ECQ in the next few, which means more food fears.
Mhm.
What's your message for her about?
My message is just take it easy, focus on one thing, and give yourself permission to do that, because that's so important. Give yourself permission to change and to learn about yourself in the coming days, the coming life, and do that. Learn about yourself, like learn about who you actually are. Because if you take out the dieting and you take out the workouts and you take out your body, who are you at the root of all that? So learn about that, because that's actually the most important thing. Not what your physical shell is, but who you are.
Right. I love how you always say you are worthy in the body that you have now.
Yes. Yes. You have to believe that.
And you always deserve to eat.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to eat right now.
Thank you so much, Jo.
Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you. I loved how you also opened up about your experiences, because I love hearing about others' experiences too.
Like yikes. I'm flashing all your info. Do you want to invite them to
Sure.
follow you?
Just go check out my Instagram. It's Jo Sebastian on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Or you can also go through my YouTube, which is just Jo Sebastian on YouTube. Right? I post some videos, or just photos, or just my thoughts. Usually, a lot of my posts are just reminders to myself of like, come on, you can do this. Just forcing myself to remember what's going on. But just sharing my experience, trying to find my balance, because we all need some that thing to help us.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
been so
Thank you so much.
educational and inspiring.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right. Bye.